Got it.
Okay, well, hi everyone. Happy Friday. My name is Elizabeth Orrick, and I am the Senior Manager of Community Engagement for Best Friends. I am new to this position, but not to Best Friends. I've been with the organization for 16 years, but I recently moved to the LA team from our national puppy mill campaign. And I know that I do know some of you. I've had the chance to work with some of you throughout the years or met you at the center recently. But for those I haven't yet met, I'm really excited to have that opportunity and to work with this incredible Best Friends LA team to increase life-saving in our community. My colleague Kelly is on the call. I know you all know her. Thank you, Kelly, for being here. So I just want to thank everybody for showing up today for what I know will be a fantastic presentation about quote unquote bonded cat pairs, cats in pairs, by everyone's favorite cat guru, Samantha Bell. We will have time for questions at the end, but you can also throw them in the chat and I'll bring those up to Sam because I know she can't see the chat. And if you can focus your questions specifically on this topic, that would be great. But you know that if you ever have any questions at all about things that we're doing at Best Friends or things that you're doing at Best Friends, always reach out to us. Please don't hesitate. And any questions that we can't get to today, we'll capture and follow up with you afterwards. So again, we're recording this call. So if you miss any part of this, or you need to leave early, or you just want to watch it again, which I highly recommend, you will have it available to you. So please make sure that you're muted for now so that we have a nice, clear recording. And with that, I will hand it over to the awesome Samantha Bell.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And I just wanted to give Elizabeth a shout out. I know some of you have met her. And if you haven't, you have to meet her. She is wonderful. And I'm so excited she's in this position. You know, I've known her from working with her for the 10 years that I've been here. And this is such a wonderful gift to the city of Los Angeles and to our animals to have Elizabeth in this position. So I'm super, super, super excited about it. And I hope you all are too. And if you don't know her, just know she's amazing. And I am going to get started now. So this came out of a discussion with Brittany, who had said, we're getting a lot of pairs returned, and we really don't have any SOP or any protocol for what to do when cats are returned in pairs. And let's figure something out. And can I use your cat expertise to figure this out? And I said, sure, I'd love to. Like, it's such an interesting topic. And Johan's going, whenever I speak excitedly in a meeting, Johan, he gets his stuffed animal and he needs to soothe himself and go, oh. So if you hear that noise, that's Johan. So this is going to be about cat behavior, a lot about cat behavior, and a lot about pairs of cats and what we're going to do. So first of all, I have to start out this presentation with our legal disclaimer that this is just advice. If you do anything that we say, we can't be held responsible. So basically go to your vet or get a behaviorist if you have problems or questions. Just legal disclaimer. So here is the challenge. We encourage at Best Friends and in rescue in general, not just at Best Friends, but rescue encourages kitten adoption in pairs. So rescues are getting returned pairs of adult cats, and there's no guidelines for this right now. So how can we ensure the least amount of stress and the best outcome for returned pairs of cats? So it's a very interesting subject. And first, before I start giving you a bunch of information, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am the official cat expert for Best Friends. I'm also our cat content strategist, which means I work with almost every department at Best Friends in planning when we're disseminating information about cat behavior to the public. I have completed all of the International Association for Animal Behavior Consultants cat behavior trainings. I've been a kitten foster for almost 12 years now. I was a national cat trainer for Jackson Galaxy for about 6 years during the Cat Positive Pro program that we did. That program has been changed and they no longer have trainers for that program. But when that was really cool, and in that position, it was a paid position that was kind of like a side gig to my best friend's job, and I would work with shelters all over the country, and I would train that shelter's staff and volunteer team on how to use positive reinforcement clicker training to get their toughest cats adopted, like the most long-term cats adopted. And I worked with, I mean, I don't know how many shelters all over the country, and got to meet all of their staff and volunteers, and that was just an amazing experience. I was the cat behavior lead at Best Friends Los Angeles from 2014 through 2019. And before I was the cat behavior lead, I started out in the kitten nursery, and then I was a cat caregiver, and then I moved on to the foster team. And then I went into the cat behavior lead position, which I kind of created. And so basically, if it has to do with cats at Best Friends, I've had my hand in some part of it. So I'm very, very lucky, and I love my job. So today we're going to talk about adopting kittens in pairs, why we recommend this. We're going to talk about relationships between cats, how cats become friends, what it looks like, and like how challenging it is for cats to become friends. We're going to talk about cat returns in general, and just a view of how we look at them. We're going to talk about what exactly to do SOP wise with returned pairs of adult cats. And then we're going to brainstorm and Q&A. And I want you to know that this truly is a discussion. This is a brand new topic in the cat world. And I think on this next slide, it'll tell you why. So Dr. Michael Delgado, if you ever want to know the absolute latest, most accurate, best information about cat behavior, Dr. Michael Delgado, she works for UC Davis, and she is the only cat doctor of cat behavior that I know. And so she's involved in all the research, and basically, like Jackson is super involved in cat behavior, and he's very involved in rescue. Dr. Michael Delgado is also very involved in rescue. So I took this topic of bonded pairs and returned cat pairs, and I called both of them. And I said, well, with Dr. Michael, I emailed her, and I said, help me talk about this, because if you look on the right here, these are the cat behavior books that I own that would apply to this topic. These are not all the cat behavior books I own. I own twice as many as this, but all of these are ones that are just like a general cat to cat relationships, different things. And I looked in every single one of them, and at the back of the book, they have the index, it's alphabetical. They're like 6 pages of little tiny types. I went through every single topic in every single one of these books, and the word bonded was not in there, and the word pairs was not in there. So I went into everyone and looked at cat to cat relationships. I looked at siblings. I tried to look for absolutely any information that is written on this. And guess what? There is none. So I went to Dr. Delgado. I said, Michael, the idea, how do I talk about this? And she said, well, here's what I can say as a researcher. The idea of bonded pairs of cats has never been researched and is not found in any cat behavior literature. She's like, so everything that we're going to be talking about is going to be gospel. It's going to be new. It's going to be the first of its kind. And so she's like, let's talk about it. Let's work on it. And so then I reached out to Jackson, and his take on it is that this topic, the rescue world really needs to make this quantifiable, or rescues will hesitate to recommend adopting pairs of kittens. And he is very, very much pro adopting pairs of kittens. And he was like, this is mind blowing, Samantha Bell. This is something I've never thought about. And this is something that has never been addressed. Your volunteers and your staff and you are all ahead of the curve. He's like, well done, Best Friends. Now this is something that needs to be talked about. And so we spent hours upon hours on the phone figuring out what our stance is on this. And so that's what I'm going to present to you. And everything I'm going to present to you today, a lot of it is just general cat knowledge. But when it comes to the returns of cats and pairs, it is what Dr. Michael Delgado and Jackson and I all came up with. So it's really exciting. This is definitely cutting edge, first of its kind information, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So adopting kittens in pairs is where we're starting, because this is the root of this issue. And a lot of people wonder, well, maybe let's not adopt them out in pairs, because it is tough when they come back. But it's really important that kittens stay in pairs. It's going to, and one more thing quickly before I start going, I usually don't have this much text on each slide, but I said in the last presentation, this is the first time I've ever talked about this. So this is a guide for me to not keep going and going and going, because all of my presentations I always do are 95 to 100 minutes. It's just the way my brain works, because I used to do all the volunteer trainings that were 90 minutes and then questions. And so there's so much text in the PowerPoint because I'm trying to make sure I stay on topic. I know it's not ideal, but also at the end of this presentation, there is a QR code, and all of you will be able to have and access this presentation. And there is a good amount of text on there, so you can remember everything. Some people learn visually, some people learn, audio, some people learn through text. I'm trying to hit all the bases here. So adopting kittens in pairs improves kittens' development emotionally, socially, and physically. So this is not on there, but the first here I go. I'm going off topic, even though no, it's not off topic. It's on topic. The first 2 to 7 weeks of a kitten's life are crucial for social development. So if they have not touched a human and had good interactions with more than one, I think they say 4 to 5 humans in the first 2 to 7 weeks, they might not become social cats. That is one little time frame that we need to be concerned about. The next time frame that we need to be concerned about is their formative development on how they interact with others for the first 4 months of their life. And during that time, that is when instincts are telling their brain, you need to bite things, you need to scratch things, you need to learn how to bite things, you need to learn how to scratch things. And so in this time, they have so much drive instinctively. They don't know why, but they need to bite things, they need to scratch things. And so during those first 4 months, it's really crucial to have them in pairs so that they practice these behaviors on each other, and their brain forms and goes, okay, biting, scratching, attacking, all these things are meant for other cats. And then they grow up and they don't think about attacking humans as the way a cat who doesn't have a friend, because they all need to do this. Like, it's so important for them to bite and scratch and attack. They're not far from their wildcat ancestors. They still need to do that. So that's why we encourage adopting kittens in pairs. It's not like that with dogs. It is with cats. They need to bite and scratch. So, and obviously some of the other reasons we do encourage adoption in pairs that are not as crucial, but still beneficial. They'll get more playtime, they'll get more enrichment, and they'll have a friend when you're not home. Basically, when you put 2 kittens together up to 4 months, that age right there, it is making them better pets. And that's what we want. We want better pets. We want people to keep these kitties. As far as adopting kittens in pairs goes, I usually don't just read word for word, but this is such a good quote. This is in Jackson's book, Total Cat Mojo. And at the end of this presentation, I have links to further reading that I feel of 3 different books that really have great information on just cat behavior between other cats. And this quote I love, so I am going to read it out loud. If you have the choice of bringing home 2 kittens or 1, for the sake of the kittens, bring home 2. Having a feline friend is better for them and better for you. And as counterintuitive as it may seem, I guarantee 2 will be less work. Dr. Sharon Crowell Davis suggests that when kittens are removed from their litter, it deprives them of the ability to learn to be socially competent adult cats. Cats are social learners. Kittens learn from their peers how to play, how to interact with others. I'm not saying that if circumstances dropped a single kitten in your lap, then that cat is behaviorally doomed. There are plenty of singletons I've met later in life who turned out just fine. I am, however, saying that if you are in a position of picking kittens from a litter, you should pick at least two. And that if it were my animal shelter, well, you just wouldn't have a choice. So those are Jackson's feelings on it. And here's the thing, Jackson isn't just a cat behavior guy who's out of touch with the shelter world. His roots are in the shelter world. His heart is still in the shelter world. Everything he does is to help shelter cats. So this is what he is recommending. And so this is basically why, in case anyone ever says, why two? It's not just that it's easier, it's really important. So now we have two kittens, and two kittens are in a home together. Let's talk about cat to cat relationships or putting together two cat relationships. So as I said, cats have not evolved very much from their wild cat ancestors. Dogs have been with humans thousands and thousands and thousands of years longer than cats have. So dogs are fully domesticated. Wild cats have retained so many wild instincts that whenever cats do something that we see as undesirable, those are those wild cat instincts. And when you think about wild cats, most of them, 9 out of 10 wild cats live a solitary life. There's one cat that doesn't live a solitary life. Does anyone know which wild cat doesn't? I know Elizabeth does because she was in the last one. Does anyone know which wild cat? Yes, Kelly.
Lions.
Lions. Very good. Very good. Yes, lions are the only one. And we don't understand that whole thing. But other than lions, wild cats live single. They live by themselves. And that's because their territory, they hunt alone because the prey is only enough to feed them. And if other cats are there, they're going to fight over prey. And it's just easier for them to stay apart and do their own thing and just live by themselves. Now, when the ancestors of our current pet cats domesticated themselves, it was because humans started forming villages and cities and things. And the cats, we had all this grain, which attracted mice. So there were a bunch of mice, not just one mice. And so there could be a bunch of cats in this area. But the cats had to develop this ability to live around other cats. And at first, they hated it, but they needed to develop this ability to live. And they said their brains realized it's better to put up with other cats than to lose the opportunity to be fed by humans. So it was they were very reluctantly moving into closer quarters with each other. However, despite that background and the fact that even to this day, cats that live outside, community cats, are solitary hunters, cats can still be social. I'm not saying there's no such thing as cats being friends. They can still be social. There is a spectrum of how social they are. There are some cats that even though they have grown up with other cats and everything is just the way it should be, they don't want to live with other cats. And that is the nature part of their brain. We can try the nurture to, grow up with another cat, all these things, but we have both components playing into how cats feel about each other. We have nature and we have nurture here. Cats Protection in the UK, which is a fantastic animal welfare group they have a quote on their website. It says, "While cats do not need friends, they may choose them if they wish, although often they will only like specific individual cats rather than just being generally sociable to the whole species." So it's not common for one cat to just like every cat. One cat can like one other cat. And just as a bonus info for anyone who's trying to integrate cats, in 2022, there was a Japanese study that found that cats with lower cortisol levels and lower testosterone levels, okay, cortisol level, that's the stress hormone. The lower that the cortisol level is, the more tolerant they will be of other cats. So lowering your cat's stress level is going to help them get along. This is just bonus info for you at home. So when you have cats living together, they get along, they never, ever, and will never view each other as equals. There is a constantly changing hierarchy between the cats going on at all times. If you have two cats right now, they either have figured out where their place on the hierarchy is and they're content with it, or they're trying to figure it out and they are a little nervous and awkward about it. I have 3 cats, and you want to think of that the levels of the hierarchy like rungs on a ladder, but they're not evenly spaced. And when I look at my cats and there's rungs on the ladder, they're all three really close to the top. And they're all, but they've kind of figured out Desmond is at the top of the ladder, Johan is at the bottom, Maurice is a baby. I mean, he's only a year, so he's still kind of trying for his place in there, but everybody's fine and they are friends. But if you're thinking about your cats and you're wondering which of my cats is the highest on this hierarchy ladder, it's going to be the cat who claims the highest territory because they want to look down on everyone. It's going to be the cat who usually hangs out in the center of the room versus along the perimeter. The more a cat is along a perimeter, the less confident they feel about their place in the hierarchy. The cat who is the least aggressive is going to be the highest in the hierarchy. And a lot of people think that's a little counterintuitive, but it's because they're like, I'm fine. I'm up here. I don't need to fight. It's those ones, like people would think Johan was the highest on my ladder because he's always kind of not bullying to the point of upsetting the other cats. He's just kind of annoying to them and he's a little anxious. And that's the other thing. The cat that's the least anxious is also at the top because they've secured their spot and they're fine. And the cat who's the healthiest. They can tell who isn't healthy and those cats slip down. If that hierarchy is understood between the cats in your house and it's accepted and the resources are plenty, which means if you have 3 cats, there are 3 bowls of food, there are 3 litter boxes, there are 3 bowls of water. If you have enough resources so that they feel like that solo hunter in their solo territory, they can form close relationships because their needs are being met and they're not trying to jockey for a higher place on the hierarchy. So as you can see from all those past 2 slides, it takes a lot for cats to form friendship, which is why it's not common for separating them to cause distress, which is good. This is good information to know. So these are some signs that cats are friends. And this is taken from one of Jackson's book. I think this is Total Cat Mojo. Signs of feline friendship. They spend time near each other. So during the day, you think, where are they hanging out? If they're in the same room, that's great. They don't need to be on top of each other in order to be friends, but just in the same room, they're choosing that. Great. If not, sometimes they rotate and, one will be here, and then they'll kind of switch around. But spending time near each other means they're friends. Grooming each other is a huge sign of friendship, especially there's one very socially significant spot where one cat grooms the other cat that shows these cats really are friends, and that is behind the ears. If one cat grooms the other cat behind the ears, they are saying that they are good friends. If they greet each other with tails up, now this is more for cats that are new within the first year of being together. They will spend almost that first year greeting each other with their tails up, saying to the other one, I'm friendly too. After living together about a year, they kind of dismiss with that formality and their tails just don't always go up every time they see each other because they're just used to it. But tails up is also a good sign and something to look for in our free roam rooms because these cats are newly being introduced. Pillowing, which is such a cute term, it's such a cute verb, is when one cat sleeps on the other one. If he actually puts, that is trust. They are asleep and their head is resting on another cat. That is a sign that they're friends, playing together. And if they're playing together quietly, it doesn't matter how rough and intense and just like vicious it looks. If it's quiet, it is amazing. It is the best enrichment. It's the best friendship. If they can just really go at it and all you hear are just like that, those little noises, be happy. You are so lucky. That is the ultimate enrichment for them. If one is screaming, not good enrichment. And if they touch noses, cats that touch noses are friends. So these are all signs of cats that are friends. Now, friendship does not mean the cats will become distressed when separated. When we go back to this page, my cats, all 3 of them, do all of these things, even grooming behind the ears. They do all of these things. I know for a fact they will not become distressed when separated. And a lot of people would be shocked because Johan and Desmond have been together for 10 years Johann and Desmond have been together since they were neonatal kittens. They're not brothers, but they were put together in the nursery. And I know for a fact they will not be distressed because I have cameras in my house. And when one cat goes to the vet, you kind of see the other cat's behavior. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care when the other one's gone. And here's the thing, Packard, I had for 8 years, and Packard and Desmond were inseparable. I mean, just the talk about pillowing. Their life was pillowing. They just were always asleep on each other, always grooming each other. And Johann was kind of like a little, he was kind of, not really in the group. And it was Johann it was Desmond and Packard. And when Packard passed away, he passed away at home, so that I had the vet come to my house, and I made sure that Desmond saw his friend and saw him after he passed. And then I kept a very, very, very close eye on my cats after Packard passed, because it was 8 years and they were all really good friends. Packard was just everybody's best friend. And I know the signs to look for. I've read all these books 10 years ago. I know the signs to look for. Nothing. Desmond, not a sign. Nothing. He was totally fine. He ate fine. He just started hanging out with you. He was nicer to Johann. So I'm just saying that just because their friendship does not mean they will automatically become distressed when separated. However, some cats can become confused, sad, and distressed when separated. Cats can grieve. I'm not saying cats can't grieve. They can. There are some cats that do grieve, which is why in our SOP and in our figuring out what to do, we need to take that into account, that, just because Desmond doesn't mean no cat will. But honestly, when one cat is separated from the other cat, the top thing in their head is, where am I on the hierarchy now? One's gone. Where am I? Where's that shift? Or if they're going into a new home, where am I in this? Because like I said, they're still not fully domesticated. Dogs are more likely to grieve and to miss the other dog, because dogs don't have that wild part in their brain saying who's at the top and the hierarchy and I just need to survive. I just need to stay alive. And that's where cats' brains go automatically. However, there are signs of distress in cats. Some of the signs you might see would be increased vocalization, just crying, decreased appetite, over grooming, social withdrawal from you and from everyone else, or just shutting down in general. If you see these signs and there's no way for you to reunite the cat, such as one has passed away, you need to remain a calming presence, and you need to increase enrichment. And it's tough. That is the hardest time to remain a calming presence, because we're feeling it too. I get it. When Packard died, I was a wreck, but I knew that for my cat's sake, I had to just be this calming presence and show them that everything's okay now, because if we show them everything's not okay, everything's not going to be okay, because they feed off our emotions. So the word bonded, Jackson was like, we got to get rid of that word. We just got to stop saying it. And like the title of this presentation is Bonded Pairs. And I was like, it's called Bonded Pairs. And this whole thing is about how we shouldn't say the word bonded. So the word bonded is a loaded word. We're anthropomorphizing cats. We're giving them a human emotion that they actually don't have. And when we say bonded, it's evoking human emotions. So this term is not used in cat behavior ever. It's not in any books. It's not in any research. And it's also not based in science. And if we want to do things right, we need to be science-based in our decision making. And so the word bonded can be dangerous when used in cat rescue. And like Jackson said, we got to get rid of that word. And when he and I talked, we said a better way to say it would be cats that become distressed when separated. We're not, by saying we don't want to use the word bonded, we're not saying it's not real. We're just saying that word is dangerous because it's making people upset, and it's making, when we're upset, we're making the cats upset. And then we're saying, oh, don't separate them because they're bonded. And now it's taking them longer to find a home, and other cats are not going to be rescued. So we have to look at that word and say, okay, let's change it instead to cats that become distressed when separated. So kind of say that in your head once, so that so that it kind of gets in the vocabulary. Cats that become distressed when separated. It's our rebrand. We're rebranding here. And here is just cat returns in general. I wanted to just give a little talk about this. I've been to other talks. Oh, and you know what? Back to this page about the word bonded. I wanted to give a shout out to good old Mark Peralta. It's been many years since he's been our director. But when I first started at Best Friends, Mark was our director. And I remember in one meeting, someone said something about bonded pairs. And the way this was 9 years ago. And the way Mark responded was, that's not a thing. We don't do bonded pairs here. That's not real. And I went, oh, like, he's so mean. Wow, that's really mean. And it took me 8 years to figure out, oh, he's right. It took me researching. It took me talking to Jackson Galaxy to go, wow, Mark Peralta 9 years ago, when he said, we don't have bonded pairs, that's not a thing. He was right. So just a shout out to good old Peralta here. So when it comes to cat returns, here's how I always think about it. And I like to tell people my take on cat returns. So when someone adopts cats, a pair of cats, dogs, anything, they adopt them thinking it's going to be forever. And that's what they picture. And that's what they want. Then something happens. And if they need to return those cats, they probably feel like they failed. They probably feel embarrassed, and they probably just feel like we're going to judge them for it, because here's all these people that work in animal rescue and we're going to judge them because why can't you keep this animal? But there are legit reasons, and even if they're not legit reasons in our opinion, they are in this person's opinion. And these are humans that have to suck up their pride. And you know what would be easier for them is to just open the door and let the cats go, because now they have to get those cats in carriers. They have to drive to West LA from wherever they are from. They have to walk in knowing in their head, thinking they're going to be judged. And they have to walk up to someone and say, I failed. I can't do this. I'm a bad person. I'm getting rid of these cats. And in their mind, these are all the things they're going through. So when someone returns a cat, I didn't realize this until a couple years into rescue. Like, I'm so grateful to them. I'm so grateful to them because they chose the hard path. They chose the difficult path so that these cats would be safe and would be able to find another home. The easier path is just opening up the door and letting them go. They said, I'm going to do this. And think of how embarrassing that is and how much they have to suck up their pride. And they might not act like it. They might act like they don't care. Everyone has their own defense mechanisms. So when someone is returning a cat, I am so grateful to them that they chose the hard path. And I just want us to think of cat returns as just being so grateful that these people brought them back to us so that they're safe and they can find another home. And if we feel that way when we meet these adopters, they're going to see that we're not judging them, and they're going to be able to relate to us and talk to us, because that conversation when they bring the animal back is the most important conversation in that animal's new life, because we can get as much information from them as we can if we show them love and kindness and understanding. And we can find out if these cats would become distressed when separated. They might not know. The person might pass away, and then someone else brings them in that doesn't know these things, and that's okay. We're going to have a process for that as well. But if this is the owner of the cats and we're able to show them kindness and compassion, they're going to give us so much great information. And here's the thing. Jackson's team right now, he said it's due in April. His team is creating a new return form, and it is a cat return form, a cat surrender form. And in it, he is working on it from the behavior aspect of which questions we need to know. And, he said originally when he wrote it, it was like 29 pages long because of all the questions we'd like to know. But he's also working with a market research team, and he's also working with a human psychologist. And they are saying, the best ways to word things to get people to open up about questions so that we can get the information we need. Because that is going to help these cats so much, is us getting that information. So he said that will be done probably in April, and he's going to ask me for help on it. And we're going to add these cat pair return questions to it. So, there's a little separate sheet if you are returning cats, and we're going to ask in ways to get absolutely as much information as we can from these adopters so we can help place these kitties. And it's very exciting because he was like, this is something we've never done before. He's like, now I'm going to add it to the form. He's like, thank you. So here's what we're thinking. Here's what Jackson and I are thinking. How can we ensure the least amount of stress and the best outcomes for return pairs of cats? First of all, in your mind, look at that return as a gift. Like I said, they didn't just let him out the door. It's a gift. They brought him back to us, and look at it from a science-based approach versus emotional, which is also going to help the cats since they feed off our emotions. And number one, we're going to utilize as much information as we can from that former owner to determine placement. Once we get that, unless they have proof that these cats become distressed when separated, we are going to split them up as soon as they get here and get them in get to know you foster homes. He said just for 36 hours, but it could be like 3 days, 4 days, up to 5 days. Don't let the foster don't make it tough. Just make it easy. And they're going to go into foster homes, and we will provide daily questions for those fosters to determine if these cats have become distressed when separated. If so, they're reunited. We understand that some of them might become distressed when separated, and we're not asking for like people who are super experts in cat behavior to foster them. We're just going to give them a sheet, and this is a sheet that Jackson and Michael and I and the foster team, he said he wanted to take the foster team to lunch, and we would work on this sheet for the fosters that are taking home these get to know you cats, so that they don't have to be cat experts. And each day, did the cat this, did they eat, did they, have they, all these different things. And by using science, by quantifying their behavior, we will be able to determine if these cats can be placed separately or if these cats should be immediately reunited, even on the first day. If it says that, then we're going to reunite them. If we don't have fosters that day to take them, because sometimes when people return cats, they email us like a week in advance to say, hey, how do I do this? I'm going to be returning them. We could get fosters set up and ready so that we could do this. If not, then we're going to split them up right away at the center and provide those same questions for staff and volunteers that will help determine the placement of the kitties. When I talked to Jackson, I said, I would give them a couple days to settle in and then assess them. He said, absolutely not, because during those first couple days, they could trauma bond. And then what we see is not actually how they are. We just see them in the moment of trauma, like clinging to each other. And he said it's not something super common. That's also not science, but he said he's seen it where when two cats get returned, they trauma bond, and then people think they're bonded, but they're actually not. It's just that, that first 3 days of being in the shelter, which is why he said you want to see their behavior immediately without each other to be able to determine that. So that's what we have. What time is it? 11:40. See, that's exactly where I wanted to be. Those are the ideas, and this is what we've come up with. And I also would love to hear your ideas, your questions. I'm sure there are questions on this. Last time there were a ton of questions. Also, just so you know, coming up in here, we have these books, and on this slide here is the QR code. And on that slide, these are clickable links. So you could click on, these are the 3 books, but we'll get to that in a second. But now we're gonna brainstorm, and I would love to hear, because there are so many of you that are so valued on this call, and I would love to hear your thoughts and your ideas, because none of this is set in stone. We have not started this yet. These are just what Jackson and I think. So Elizabeth, do we have questions, comments? I got my notebook.
So I'm sure everybody has been so just rapt listening to all of this incredible information that they're just now going to put all their questions in the chat. But there is one question, which is, what counseling is done to those who adopt 1 kitten instead of 2? Is there something that we can do to either, encourage them to perhaps adopt a second kitten, or beyond providing just all the great information that you provided earlier, but also if they're just set on one kitten, since we don't have that mandatory policy that you referenced, Jackson would like to see. What should we tell them to do in order to ensure that that kitten grows up to be a healthy, competent, capable cat?
That is brilliant. Who asked that?
Belle asked that.
Thank you, Belle. That is fantastic. I don't know. I don't know if there is counseling on it, but there needs to be. And thanks to you, I'm gonna get that started. I don't know. I don't know if the adoptions team, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they counsel them on it. I just don't know what it is. So I will find that out and give, like, I have written so many, they're kind of like scripts for adoption to have. They're like these one-page handouts, and it's basically like, here's all the info, and they can talk about it with the adopter, and also they can give it to the adopter with all the points on it, because when you're adopting, you're not absorbing as much information as once you go home, because there's so much excitement and everything. So I think creating handout on why two kittens are important, but also how to raise that single kitten, because it's, they do need tips. So I love it, and that's going on my list. Thank you.
Good. Kelly, did you want to add something to that? I see you unmuted.
I have heard them basically trying to divert play from playing with your hand to playing with toys. And I know there is specifically a benefits of adopting two kittens handout. I only hear adoption stuff and see adoption stuff in passing, but we can get more info on that. Yeah.
Oh, but that's good. That's good to know. Thank you.
And I see Susan has her hand up. Susan, do you want to unmute so you can ask your question?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, I couldn't figure out how to type it in and get it to you. So my question is, if someone is adopting what has been identified, at least at the rescue, as a pair of cats who are distressed when they're separated, is there an understanding that if it doesn't work out, they need to return both cats together?
I
know in the past, it happened fairly recently that someone had adopted an adult pair of cats, one of whom was blind, and they returned the blind cat. And these were cats who had been together as adults and appeared to be distressed when they were separated. So is there any understanding going into it that if they can't keep one and give the other one back for some reason?
I think that could be something that adoptions would talk to them about. I do know that those two that came back, the blind one that came back was not distressed at all and was doing fine.
Okay.
So I know that the cat was eating and it was friendly with people and it wasn't screaming and, just different things like that. Like, I know that cat ended up not being distressed, but I understand why we would think it could be, because it was blind, like that brings in a whole new level of emotions and understanding. But I think that would be something that could be noted in shelter love, that these are two cats that need to go home together because they become distressed when separated, and talking about that with the adopter about, keeping them together. It's something that I will talk to adoptions about. That is a great point.
And then we have, thank you, Susan, for that question. We have a question in the chat from Leah that says, hi, Sam, since cats can often exhibit stress behaviors during initial transition periods, isn't it possible that we might mistake separated cats and needing their bonded pair versus simply being stressed by all the change? Despite the theory of trauma bonding, wouldn't it make more sense to keep them together in foster care initially, then separate to gauge their behavior?
That's exactly what I said to Jackson, and he schooled me on that last week. So I thought the same thing, that they're going to exhibit those behaviors. He said, absolutely not, separate them right away. He said that we are going to see different he said once they get into the foster homes, we shouldn't see, if it's in the center, then that could more likely happen. But in the foster homes, he said that's not likely to happen, because that was a question I had too. And he said, nope, you've got to separate them right away.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Kat said, hello, everyone. Ever experienced feline non-recognition aggression with cats who love each other, have been separated for a short time, and then are reunited? I had to look it up when it happened.
Yes, it is a huge thing. I have a whole, like, I wrote an article on it for some online site that I can send to you that's about that. But yes, feline non-recognition aggression syndrome is, for example, when one cat goes to the vet and they come back and they have a different smell on them, and then the other cats hate them and like fight with them. And basically it's just, they're scared because they've lost the group scent. That every home has a group scent, and when one gets other scents on them, they come home and they have Maurice did it because Johan and Desmond go to the vet once a month and they get their Silencia shot, and when they come back, Maurice hisses. He walks around hissing at him and things like that, but it just goes away if it lasts longer. I worked with a client who, one cat had cancer and had his leg removed, and since he came back, the other cat was just completely so scared and attacking him, and that went on for years, and we had to do reintroductions and desensitization and counter conditioning and all these different things. So it does happen. Hopefully it goes away quickly. Like my cats, I do have a friend who it takes her cats 3 days to calm down once they come home, and that is because cortisol, the stress hormone, is something that lasts about 3 days when they have that cortisol in them. So could be that.
Well, I have seen that fostering kittens. I had a mom and kittens who the kittens got had their spay neuter appointments staggered, and so the first two that had their appointments came back the next day, and mom and the remaining kittens were just really ganging up on these kittens. They had been, a really healthy family unit, but when the two that were spayed came back, it was like there were intruders in the house, and that lasted for just the remainder of the day, and then everybody was back to normal. So it's really interesting that that's a real thing. I thought maybe
it is. It's just that losing the group scent, and hopefully it's gone within 3 days. And if not, then you need to do reintroductions.
Great.
If I can interrupt too, I just wanted to say that I asked that, as a part of this discussion, because hi, Sam. If you're, talking about separating these cats for a while to see if they're actually, going to miss each other, and then one of them is distressed, you put them back, and the possibility of that again, smells and all that kind of stuff. So
yep,
that's why I asked that question.
Yeah, that is a possibility. But what Jackson is assuming is that most cats will not be stressed when separated. So, in the case that they are, just because of all that we went through, of how hard it is for cats to become so close, that most of them are not going to be distressed when separated. But when they are, then all kinds of new variables are going to come in, like, are they going to be okay going back together? And, maybe they're not at all. So it is going to bring in all kinds of new things to worry about. And I'm here to help with that once it happens.
Thank you.
Of course. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Kat. Bella, you have your hand up?
I do. So thank you, Sam. The whole bond and terminology thing reminds me how our human emotion often gets in the way of logic and science. So that's a good reminder for me as well. So I have a couple questions, because I do know many of the pairs that have come back. I've worked with them, and we even have some triples come back. So just I want to make sure I'm clear on one item, and then I have some other follow-up questions. When we do have a pair returned, they were adopted together, but only one comes back, right? I knew about Young Bay's situation, which actually sparked a lot of this. But we've recently had another situation where one came back, the other did not. So we are not putting in protocols in place saying we want both back at this point in time. Am I hearing that correctly?
We're not right now. It's not,
Okay.
yeah, that's not something that's happening right now. It's something we could talk about, but I don't think you can force that. I don't know. That's something we'd have to talk to adoptions about rather than cat behavior about.
And just say that honestly, how do we enforce that? If somebody, you know, if somebody could just take them to a municipal shelter, right? We're relying on people doing the right thing. And if they're bringing them back to us, that's the right thing, but we can't make them do that. So that's something we would probably have to counsel rather than mandate, because there's no way to, unfortunately, to make people comply.
Because if they can't bring them, if they can't bring just one back, if we won't allow that, they might just let that one outside. That's always, you know, they're like, well, if I can't, then, you know, like, so it is tough. We are relying on their good senses.
Okay, so moving on. Then the next question becomes is you talk about the separation of them right away. So we've had a pair come back within the last week. They are not separated right away. And it actually was a triplet. One, I think, went off on their own. So is there an ETA on when that will happen with separation right away when a pair comes back? And what is the protocol for adoptions and their return? Like, what is the first step they're doing? How are we notified? I mean, so I would love some more information on what is adoptions. How are they handling a pair of returns that come in, because they're not separated initially right now that I've seen at this point.
No, this is brainstorm. We haven't put any of this into play yet. This is Jackson. Okay. This is in Jackson's ideal world. This is how we would handle things.
Okay. So there's no ETA on any of this putting into application at this point in time.
I don't know of an exact date.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is what's so exciting about this is this conversation is just starting, and that's why we wanted all of you to be able to participate in this discussion and to help brainstorm how we handle these kinds of things, because you all are interacting with these animals as much as, if not more than, a lot of us, and it's really important to get your input and your feedback. And so nothing has been created yet. No policies have been put in place yet. We're just trying to develop those now.
Exactly. This is part of what we're trying. Yeah, part of the development process, because, you know, and like Jackson said, this is the first time this has been talked about. And that's what he would do if he, just like with he would mandate kittens be adopted in pairs if he ran his own shelter. That this is how he would mandate how cat pairs that are returned are handled if he ran his own shelter. And I do agree with him, so I am presenting it. But that's as far as we are.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I see another comment from Leah. Per Jackson's recommendations, would it make sense to avoid adopting on-site cats out separately during that 36-hour observation period?
No. No. I would get them in homes. No matter what, get a cat in a home. Always. Yeah, don't let anything deter a cat from going home.
Yeah.
But that is a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. So we have just a couple more minutes. So I want to make sure if anyone hasn't asked a question that they wanted to ask, that they have time to do that. But in the interim, I'll just say that this is so interesting to me, because I'm the same. I just assumed if two cats come in together, then they need to go back out together, without thinking that maybe one of those cats has been bullied all those years that it was in the home. And this is the best thing that could have possibly happened to that cat, because now they have an opportunity to, you know, to find a non-bullying home to be in. And meanwhile, by insisting that two cats that come in together go out together, we're really limiting their opportunity to be adopted, because not everybody is looking to adopt two adult cats. they may just only have, they may have live in an apartment that only allows one pet. They may only have the bandwidth or think they have the bandwidth for one adult cat. And for, you know, we certainly want to get every adult cat into a home that we can. So we're just shrinking the pool of adopters if we insist that those two cats go out together just because they came in together without knowing if they even really like each other. So
and that reminds me of something I talked about in the last one that I forgot to mention, that we may think our cats are friends. I had two cats when I was in, you know, my early 20s, Gracie and Sally, and they hung out in the same room, and, you know, they did everything together, and I thought they were really good friends. And then when Gracie died, Sally was so happy. She was able to be on the bed. She was able to be on the pillow, all these things that in my mind, I didn't know she had been being subtly bullied for 18 years. And then all of a sudden she was like, oh, I can finally like do what I want to do. And in my mind, this is before I studied cat behavior, I really thought they were best friends, and I would have asked a rescue to keep them together for sure. If something would have happened, I would have said they've been together 15 years, keep them together. And then when one passed away and the other one had the opportunity to live her life without the other one, she was so happy. So it's just one of those things that we look at it as, if I lost my home, I would want my partner at that time. And like, you know, that's human, you know, that's us thinking about in a human way. If something bad happened to me, I'd want my person with me. But that's not how cats think. Their brains go survival first. And, you know, maybe now I'm at the top, and maybe now, you know, just it sounds cold-hearted, but it's science.
Well, and we also, the cats aren't necessarily having a choice about being put together in the first place. You choose,
right.
And the cats are just like, well, this is my cat friend, I guess.
Yeah.
So Kat says, thank you for these progressive ideas and discussion. Hope this can spread to other rescue groups and shelters, which is really nice.
Yes, Jackson definitely said this is something that, you know, that now he knows about, and now he's going to talk about too. So
good. We have time for one more question, and Susan has her hand up, so we'll let her ask it. But again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We will be sending out the link to this recording. And so this is just the beginning of this discussion. There will absolutely be an opportunity for many more questions. And Sam, I know you want to share the QR code. But Susan, what was your question?
So just a quick question, and I might have missed it in all this discussion. So this is something that will be part of a protocol at Best Friends? And if yes,
you don't know.
Oh, you don't know. Okay, so there's no time frame on this or anything.
No,
like
this is the beginning of a discussion.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah,
sure.
You're in at the very beginning of this process. So
yeah, and the first people in the country to actually even talk about it. And then here is the QR code. If you point your phone camera at it, there should be a little yellow thing that pops up that's like got the link into whatever browser your phone defaults to, and it should open up in there. And if it doesn't work, don't worry, because we will email it to you too.
Sam, thank you so much. This is just such great information. I'm so excited about it. I think it will really change animal sheltering for the better. And I'm so excited to see discussion continue. And thank you all for coming today. Thank you for all the work that you're doing to help ensure positive outcomes for all of our cat friends and dog friends too, if that's what you do. But I really appreciate that you took the time to hear all this great information, and we will see you all soon.
Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate you all so much. That was my little thank you slide there. Thank you.